Hello everyone, it's Daniel Castros. I'm back for another video. This video I really wanted to talk about how to look into colleges and how to compare different universities, colleges, whatever it might be, and how to really decide between them because you can look at a bunch of colleges and information and you can get very um, boggled down with all the information that you can find online with these different universities and colleges. So, I want to show you today a good tool that will help you um, when you're comparing universities and then ultimately deciding universities, because of course you need to compare them to see which ones you actually want to apply to, first of all. And once you get that list honed down, then you'll have another list. Hopefully, it'll be the same length, but probably a little smaller of universities that you got accepted to, and ultimately pick which one you want to go to. And so, there's a lot of different factors that go into university decision. And so, I just picked four of the qualities that I would ultimately choose based off of, and everyone's might be different. So, and you can add as many, but what I would do is I would first create an Excel like I have here, um, where you have the school name on the left, and let's just say let's do Texas A&M, Texas or A and M. Let's do a private school. Let's do Rice. Um, let's do Sam Houston. Uh, let's do UT. Let's do uh, let's do UT El Paso. Let's do UT El Paso, and then let's do what's another school? Let's do Blinn, just in case as a backup plan. Why not? So in the first column, I have the school, A&M, Rice, Sam Houston, UT El Paso, Blinn, and we're just going to go through and we're going to look at each one of those, compare them. We're not going to have any bias beforehand. So what we want to do on here is we want to compare what's important to us. So let's say I chose size of the school because that's important. You want to know what type of school you're applying to. If it's a big school, a medium school, a school that is smaller than your own high school, it just depends. So you really want to decide where you're comfortable on going. And to do this, you can honestly just visit three different campuses like A&M, big school, smaller school, Sam Houston, maybe like a small private school as well. And so you can go visit them and really get a feel for which one you're more comfortable with. But ultimately, in the end, I will say that like even big school like Texas A&M, once you pick your major, the classrooms are going to be much smaller as you progress throughout the years because as a freshman, there's a lot of classes that every single major has to take as a freshman, and sophomore, and so a lot the first 2 years usually your classes with over 100 or can be over 100, and then for instance, I started off that way. I think I had a class with like 120 or 180 students, a physics class that everyone had to take, every engineer had to take, and then now my engineering courses are like I think I have a class with like 20 people, so it definitely dwindles down as you get more specific into your major, just so you understand that beforehand. So, size is ultimately um, something you consider, but you also need to take into account that it will get smaller as you progress. And a lot of the bigger schools offer more desired programs. So, that's the benefit of like an A&M. They have very specific engineering, whereas maybe a Sam Houston doesn't go as specific. So that's something to keep in mind whenever you're choosing. But you can go through and pick the size of school. I'm gonna look up on this side how many students Texas A&M has. So you can go Texas A&M size, and maybe you could have a little column. It has 53, so I would say large. We'll say large. Let's look up a Rice size. That's funny. I looked up Rice size and it came up with bags of rice. So Rice University, about 3,900. So I would say that's relatively small for university. Sam Houston. Sam Houston is medium. UT is going to be large. UT El Paso size is going to be medium. And then Belen, I think Belen might be medium. Yeah, it's definitely medium. So Belen is about the same size as the UT El Paso. And then Sam Houston's a little bit smaller than these two. So let's just say size is important to you. Like you don't want a big school. So, but you got to take into account the benefits of a big school. The benefits of a big school, there's a lot of people, a lot of friends to be made, a lot of organizations to join, a lot of things to be doing. And so those are the benefits of a bigger school. Now, benefits of a smaller school. Smaller school, you're more tuned in with the teacher. You can getting help is easier. Another benefit is there's less people, less friends that you could possibly make, but ultimately you'll be close to those friends. It's a lot more personal with those friends because you're all going, to the same diner. Though there's only one diner on campus instead of A&M where there's a ton of different ones, and so it's a lot more personal at a small school. And it really just depends on what you want. Now, what I would do before I choose what type of school I want to go to, I would choose the major I want to. If it's very specific, then I would recommend a larger school where you can go to that specific major, and there's a lot of they hire the professors of that specific major, and their expertise is very useful. And then let's say you want just more generic major, then it's better to go to a smaller school where you can meet more people, you can bounce ideas off of them and stuff like that. So it really just depends what you're looking for. Okay, and then another important quality of the university that was important to me whenever I was in high school was the location to home. So was it close to home? Was it far from home? Could I drive there? Did I have to fly there? Um, is it a trip that I could make on a weekend randomly if I wanted to? Like not too far where I'd have to plan it out a couple weeks in advance, but close enough where if I was feeling homesick, I could go home for the weekend that week. So that's important to me. It might not be as important to other people, so that's why I put it in there. So A&M, but also another thing about location that I wanted is I didn't want to be too close where my parents were coming every weekend, just to like pop up and randomly visit me, So Texas A&M was perfect distance. Rice is perfect for me. I'm from Austin, so about 3 hours is perfect just for random we can go home because it's like my parents won't drive that randomly during the day, but it's like perfect enough for me to be able to do that drive at home. Sam Houston is a little far for me, a little bit farther. UT is too close for me because I'm from Austin. El Paso is too far. And Belen is perfect. And then the next thing that I think is something that's super important, it might even be the most important out of all these, is the cost. Like, the cost is probably one of the most important out of all these. You need to figure out how much you're going to be paying for college. You need to understand, like, is it going to be worth the pay? What is the pay? Or not the pay, but the cost of attending the university. A lot of public universities are relatively cheaper compared to its private university. So, like, let's look at Texas A&M costs. I think it's about 19K. And so, also a lot of these out of state, you got to take into account the cost of out of state, maybe any scholarships you got. And usually, cost is harder to determine before when you apply. So I wouldn't take cost much into consideration when you're applying, but whenever you're deciding is really when you want to take into consideration the cost, because you don't know what type of scholarship they're going to offer you upon acceptance, or you might be expecting a scholarship that you don't get, and so um, I would apply. I would take into consideration cost after the fact. So Texas A&M is about 19K a year. Yeah. And then let's look up price, university cost. This is 21K. Sam Houston cost. 14K. I'm just doing quick Google searches, so it's pretty easy. UT costs 17K. Now, let me go into 9K. Okay, so cost. As you can see, the most expensive is Rice, which is a private university, so that takes into account. But another thing to take into consideration is cost is living. For instance, Texas A&M is $2,000 more expensive than UT, but I guarantee you're going to be spending more at UT just because of the cost of renting, the cost of utilities, like renting an apartment, the cost of utilities, the cost of parking, just in a big congested city. And so that the cost isn't intentionally how much you're going to be paying for living there and all that. So that's something you need to take into consideration as well. I know UT is almost like double the cost of living at A&M, so that cost definitely adds up and counteracts the cost of the school. But you need to see if it ultimately outweighs it. So you kind of need to calculate that as well and consider that when you're choosing the school. And this is something that you should do after you've been accepted, like I said earlier, just because you don't know where you're gonna be or how many roommates you're gonna have, and so cost you got to consider all things whenever you consider cost. Right now I'm just writing down the cost of the school, but make sure you take into consideration living, food expenses might be different, parking, like A&M you don't need parking, you can take the bus everywhere. It all just depends, so that's something you need consideration. And then another big one is graduation percentage. You need to know, are people graduating from A&M? Are people ultimately finishing their degree? Are they getting jobs? And you really want to look up the job rate after college. I know it's really dependent on the major, but each university has its network. And like A&M is very good about finding jobs because they have their own job portal. So it's called Hire Aggies, and you go on there, and companies that desire Aggies post on there, and that's where Aggies apply. And um, so you need to look at graduation percentage. Because job acceptance is more specific towards majors, so that's why I decided to go with graduation percentage. And again, this is easy. Just look up Texas A and M. It's 80% graduation. 80. Let's look at Rice. Rice graduation rate is 93. So people are going there, they're graduating, and most likely getting jobs. University of Houston's 58%. So let's look up UT. UT is 80 as well. Oh wait, I didn't do Sam Houston. Let me do Sam Houston. Sam Houston 67. Let me look up UT El Paso. 37. So you need to take that into consideration. A lot of people are going to UT El Paso, but are they actually graduating? chances are if you go there, you might not graduate. So you really need to take all that into consideration when you're applying, because it's your future and you want to make sure you're making the best decision possible. Think about it, lay out all your options, see the benefits, see the negatives, see where you think you belong, visit locations. And ultimately, I would highly recommend visiting once you've been accepted, because you don't want to get too attached to a school that um, don't even know if you've been accepted yet. And once you get accepted, that's when you go on your tours of schools. Understand what you'd be looking for. I would recommend going nowadays, and just so you can see the idea of a big school. But um, I mean, you need to take all these things into consideration. And a big thing people don't take into consideration is living costs. Like, living costs at College Station is lower than most of these other places. Maybe not Sam Houston, but you need to take into consideration all of that when you're applying and ultimately when you're making your decision. And so that's it for this video, guys. I just wanted to show you like what you should consider when you're making these decisions in your life. They're really important. You need to think about it, lay out all your options, weigh the cons, the pros, and ultimately make a smart decision, because it's your future. And with that being said, I wish you guys all the luck in your future. Thank you.